should the U.S. rethink its drone policy? Oh, yes, we didn't get to that issue. We should have, because there was a big, of course, recognition of a boo-boo this week. We killed 2 hostages in a drone strike in January, and 2 Americans who we were actually trying to kill because they're Al-Qaeda. And Obama apologized to the hostages' families.
First apology that anyone, a civilian, has gotten, even though the government estimates up to 1,000 civilians have been.
I know apologies don't go over well with conservatives.
No, there's
Depends on your type of concern.
It depends on what you're doing. It depends on what you're doing. I mean, if he were going to stop the drone policy, then an apology would be appropriate. I can understand his, but he's not going to. He's going to continue with it, and I can understand the contrition.
The drone king.
But this raid, the fact that it did hit 2 Al-Qaeda people, in a horrible way, the fact that those 2 hostages were killed shows what horrible stuff they were doing. It shows that they were actually warm. They were onto real Al-Qaeda people.
Well,
that they weren't
warm,
you know,
unlike the bodies of the hostages.
No, but they weren't hitting a wedding party.
Well, it also shows you're actually arguing this is acceptable collateral damage.
Once a hostage is kidnapped, there's not a lot. Your options get very limited. It's horrible.
You know, in some ways, this is actually a bad example for why the drone program is bad. What better examples are when they hit like wedding parties.
That's right.
That's actually
usually. I think what this really shows, actually, I mean, and I'll just say I agree with people like Rand Paul when it comes to drone policy. But what I think this really shows.
Say?
Well, he did a whole filibuster over this issue when we're going after American citizens.
That's the old Rand Paul who's not running for office.
I think he's still there on that issue.
Really?
But you should have him on and ask him.
Oh, we had him on.
Yeah. Well, we should ask him again. I think, I believe he's been consistent on that, but I think what this story really shows, it's astonishing to me in reading this, just how bad our intelligence is. I mean, we had tons of surveillance and like, oh, we didn't know that the hostages were there. How's that work? And then after this happens, it takes weeks to figure out like what exactly happened and how they died. It's astonishing to me that a country with the resources and capabilities that we have can't do a better job when it comes to intelligence. It's just astonishing to me.
It isn't for me. This is the fog of war. It's a tough thing to run.
Really? The Israelis do a way better job with their intel than we do.
Well, they're not droning people.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, maybe maybe that's a separate point.
We just ignore it.
You know,
well, it's very hard to see behind walls. I mean, you know, you're asking an awful lot. I have mixed feelings about the drone policy. I would say it's a case-by-case basis, and we should do a lot less of it because I think it's only causing a lot more hate in the world. But we are sort of at war with certain people, and wars do have collateral damage. There's just no doubt about that. You cannot fight one without some of that. But the idea that I mean, yes, and we have had massive intelligence failures, but to expect them to, it's never going to happen. If you're going to be droning people, you are going to sometimes kill them.
No, of course. You're not going to have a 100% record of getting everything right and knowing everything out there. That's clear. But I do think when you go and you look at how we do intelligence versus how, for example, the Israelis do it, there is more of an emphasis on human intelligence there. And with us, we like to do everything in a very remote technological fashion.
Use drones.
I think, unfortunately, when we're dealing with this kind of situation and very hardened, entrenched terrorists, that is not sufficient. And we keep seeing that over and over and over again, and nobody's fixing it.
And another thing we need to remember is that when you use drones, when you're not putting your own body in the line of fire, you might have a tendency to overuse them relative to the way you would use like an infantryman.
Sure.
Yeah. I also think it's very, very hard to get an asset on the ground in some place like Yemen, where, you know, hey guys, that America sure is a shitty country, huh? You know, you know, that, I mean, it can be done. Okay. So, were government regulators right to interfere with the proposed Comcast-Time Warner merger? That was big news today. 2 companies everyone hates, and the government says that's too much hate in one company.
I think it's important. I think it's very important that they prevented the merger because you're talking about the airwaves and the availability of platforms, and it's a freedom of speech. They didn't do it on this, but in my mind, I feel like it's a freedom of speech issue. When you get to consolidate the platforms through which people speak, then there's less and less opportunity because they control it. Look what happened to radio. you know, with the Telecommunications Act and then Clear Channel taking over everything. I mean,
Right.
it's ruined music in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well. What ruined music is no one has to pay for it anymore.
I feel like that's made it a little bit better
Yeah.
because the people that really want to make it are making it. They're putting it up online, and you know, it's ruined the parties. The parties are not as good, right?
Really? You think the music's better since we don't have to pay for it?
I think it's. I mean, I like the music. I just like this era of music right now, and I think there's a lot of creativity and people unknown being able to.
I mean, you can't, yes, there's always going to be good music because you can't stop creative people from being creative, but
Unless you're Comcast and Time Warner.
Yes,
Right,
because
exactly.
they can. Yeah.
Anna Marie, what would a successful challenger to Hillary Clinton look like? What?
I wish I knew.
Do you want one?
I do. I think that I'm not a big believer in the sort of the pundit truism that she would be a better candidate because if she had a challenger. I just like having options, sort of like Comcast and Time Warner. I mean, this is like the merger of all, the Clinton merger. This is the Clinton merger in politics. And I like having options, and I don't consider the options on the right to be ones that appeal to me. Those are actually not a wide range there either. You know, there are people that are going to be running. You never know. I
Dream on.
I looked forward to Bernie Sanders
Yeah,
being in the
I mean,
debates. I mean, I'm a big Bernie
because
Sanders fan.
What happens if these scandals, and there's going to be a new one every week, you know, slowly erode, and then we wake up
President O'Malley.
I was going to
3
say,
months before
Martin
the-
O'Malley prays for this every night before he goes to bed.
Really?
He probably has like voodoo dolls and chicken entrails out and all sorts. And I don't know, it might happen. If it does, that's going to be really fun though, because everybody should go back and rewatch their old episodes of The Wire, because I think a dude who used to be Baltimore mayor and then Maryland governor might have a few skeletons in his closet too. But
It didn't work well for Agnew.
Yeah.
He's very impressive when you see him
forget
speak,
people
though,
from
on that.
Maryland.
I think
Just
you
write
too,
them
and
off.
But everybody is when they have nothing on the line.
Yeah.
Right.
If he was getting 20% of the vote, he'd get a lot more cautious.
I just want to see.
play a lot
I
less
want to see.
bass or
I want to
whatever it
see
is that he
Bill
does.
De Blasio, her former campaign
Wow.
manager, like go out. I just think that would be great sport. But of course, I am on the opposite side of this, so I would say that
You want to see de Blasio running as a Democratic candidate?
against Hillary Clinton. I
Why?
think it would just be so much fun. It would just be so much fun.
I don't.
Well, why him?
Because he used to be your campaign manager,
Oh, I
and
see.
he's better at doing the whole inequality chat. Like when she does it, it sounds like when Mitt Romney's like, "I really care about poor people," you know. I think it would be awesome to see
That's
Bill de
so
Blasio
nice
out
that
there.
you admitted
Also,
that.
just generally as a tall person, I'm a big advocate of more tall people in politics. So I'd like to see that as well.
Okay, Chris, what explains the phenomenon of young men and women in Europe and America leaving their homes to go join ISIS?
Oh, I don't know. That's a deep.
Yeah,
that's
that's
a deep one. I mean, I think that
a book.
it's a little similar to what led certain Americans in the 70s and 80s to support the IRA, who were people of Irish background. They have this romantic and I think sort of foolhardy. They're deracinated. They're adrift. They feel that they're
Did
living
they
in a
actually
kind of
go over to Ireland and join? a lot?
No, they
There were a lot
didn't
of
so
people who
much. There were some who
donated,
did. There were some who did. But you're right. This is a more intense phenomenon.
I always ask, why isn't the opposite happening? I mean, why aren't any moderate Muslims ever going to fight ISIS?
Well, no, they're going in the
never
opposite
heard-
direction.
They are?
No, they're going from Muslim countries
They're coming
into
here.
the West.
Right.
I mean, they're
But I'm
each is
saying,
going
if,
to what
if,
they want.
if
They're
ISIS
trying to
is
get
so
away.
anathema to
I think-
moderate Muslims, how come zero have gone to fight them and you know, they attract, I
But
get
who do
that.
you fight with, really? I mean, when you think about the people who went to fight in the Spanish Civil War, those are mostly communists, I would say, and they were hooked up with people, and there were groups there fighting who were bringing American communists into contact with the Republican forces in Spain, and you also had, Stalin was backing backing them as well. There was an infrastructure there. I don't know what the moderate Muslim infrastructure is.
No, the Free Syrian Army,
Start
for
one.
example. Yeah, well, that's. I mean, I think realistically, a lot of people are in this situation. More moderate Muslims are so petrified that if they get anywhere near these guys or stay anywhere near these guys, they're going to get beheaded. You know, honestly, and I think that's not something a lot of people are up for.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of real keeping there.
What will it take for a Republican candidate to separate himself from the pack of other potential nominees? Yeah, it's funny because I heard for so long that this is not a repeat of 2012 when we had a clown car and there was a different front runner every week. But yeah, we have a different front runner every week.
Well,
now it's Rubio. Last week it was Bush. That it was
you
Ted
generally
Cruz.
do. I mean, the thing that was actually somewhat surprising in 2012 was that you had that, and I think it spoke to the fact that Mitt Romney was actually just so weak. It took so long for people to be like, oh, fine, fuck it, we'll just go with him, you know? I mean, it took me a long time to get to a place where I was like, all right, I mean, it was literally, I think, like 3 days before the election where I was like, fine, screw it, I'll tick the box, like, we're good. But, you know, a lot of people, honestly, you know, so, no, I don't think it's the same.
Well,
I mean, we are going to see
You
a
really
lot of,
loosen up on overtime, don't you?
it's just the topics. They just bring it out in me.
I see.
But I mean, I think this time around we obviously have a bigger field. We do have.
Who's your money on?
I hate that question so much. I've consulted for 4 of these guys. We've been approached by
4 of these guys?
Yeah.
Wow, you get around.
Well, and one of them's a girl. And
You're a promiscuous
well, in
consultant.
different contexts, not in the presidential context.
Of course not. You don't do everything for everybody.
Not at the same time.
I wasn't suggesting
I believe in the sanctity.
I'm not saying it was a train. I'm just saying a different.
I believe in the sanctity of a contract between a consultant and their client, and I believe in that very.
Which
strong.
4?
Carly Fiorina.
Okay.
Rick Perry.
Yes.
Rand Paul. Scott Walker.
Okay. And you don't want to say who your money's on?
I just don't know who my money
Right.
would be on.
Right.
I can argue it
Mine's
multiple
on
different
Scott
ways.
Walker.
I think it's far too early to say with all of this. I don't know. You know, I guess in November we'll see where we.
Whoever the Koch brothers want.
Well, yeah, but now
them.
we've got reports saying that at a lot of these Koch fundraisers, Marco Rubio's been the guy who's been the most impressive. So, I mean, what does that mean, right? Nobody knows. It's too early to say.
That Walker has done something, actually, to pass the package that he did in Wisconsin. Is an achievement, and it differentiates him from the other guys.
That's what it is,
Well,
and that's a blue state.
I don't know. To some degree, I think we actually have a lot of very accomplished people in this field. Whether you like their accomplishments or not is a separate matter. But I think when you look at this, I mean, this is a big difference between this field and 2012. In 2012, I mean, does anybody think that like Michelle Bachmann and Herman Cain had particularly accomplished much? I mean, Rick Santorum hadn't accomplished that much.
No, but they were on the edge. The core of the field is the same. I mean, their names.
But it's Mitt Romney and Rick Perry. Yeah, I'll grant you, Rick Perry's probably
Michelle
going to run
Bachmann,
his accomplishments. But you know,
Michelle Bachmann this week said that Obama is bringing on the apocalypse.
I think she said this before, hasn't she?
But this week she said she's bringing on the apocalypse, but we should rejoice because it means Jesus will be joining us sooner than we thought.
Wait, she really said this?
She really said this. And she was, for a time, the Republican front runner, briefly, in 2012.
Everybody gets a turn.
I know, but does that give you any insider pause into the people on your team?
Well, I'm not sure I've ever fully considered Michelle Bachmann to be 100% on my team as such.
Have you ever heard
varied
Rubio? I
coalition.
mean, Ted Cruz's father has said much the same.
Oh, yeah. No, we're going to have a lot
I mean,
of...
I'm
we're
just
going to
saying,
have so many daddy issues in the course of this campaign. It's just not
But I mean, not every Democrat is a prize, but they're just no nuts, like to that degree. Name a Democrat who says anything that crazy.
What was Mike Gravel saying in 2008?
Mike Gravel was a senator in the 70s.
He was a candidate.
He was
what did he say?
He picked up a big rock, walked over to a pond, threw it in, and walked off. He didn't say
He was nuts, and he was never a front runner.
But Michelle Bachmann was a front runner. That was like 5 months before the primary started.
But she was a front runner and she participated in this debate.
But when no one was paying attention, when there were like
I just don't think
when there were like 50 people paying attention to the.
I still don't know what Mike Gravel said or did.
He did nothing. He picked up a big rock, threw it in a pond, looked stern, and.
But it was cranky. It was cranky, and it was at about this stage of the.
I don't even get what that means or what the context was.
Nobody did. That was the whole point. It's the only thing people know about him.
But if that's
the great thing, Mike Gravel.
His name is Mike Gravel. Maybe he was trying to get people
his name is actually Mike Gravel. That's how well the video made an impression, is that we don't even know what his name actually is.
Well, I'm just glad we never had him on. We did? Oh, fuck. All right, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time, your energy, your love.